Sanders Cafe, the original place of this Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now, of course, it wasn't called Kentucky Fried Chicken here. It wasn't until he had his first franchise in Salt Lake City, Utah, that it was actually called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Birthplace of Kentucky Fried Chicken, right here, is where he perfected the 11 herbs and spices. 1932, Colonel Sanders bought the small restaurant near this site. Kentucky's most famous citizen. We're on Highway 25. Before Interstate 75 came through, this was the main road right here. But once Interstate 75 came by, then the business quit, of course. But this was his original restaurant right here, Sanders Cafe. This is a bronze was commissioned for the Harlan Sanders Cafe Museum from an original done by his daughter Margaret. This is a model motel room. This was actually a room that he built inside of his cafe, because he recognized the tendency of women to come in and check out the room before they would rent the room. So he constructed a replica of his motel rooms right in his new cafe. He believed that once they saw his clean modern rooms, they'd be inclined to have their family stay there. And he ensured that the ladies would inspect his accommodations by locating the entrance to the restroom inside the replicated motel room. See the restroom right there? You'd had to walk through this model room to get to the bathroom. See, this is inside the cafe. This is just a model room that he set up for them to see it. And then if you wanted to use a telephone in the cafe, you still had to walk through this room, so everybody could see how nice his room was. Especially the women, the ones who made the decision on staying in the rooms. It wasn't just the 11 herbs and spices, it was his way of cooking it. He perfected the time it took to cook it from 30 minutes to 9 minutes. In 1940, he first experimented with the concept of pressure frying, which allowed him to reduce the cooking time for chicken from 30 to 9 minutes. This is it right here, though. This is the kitchen right here. This is my favorite chicken, too. I like Popeyes and I like the other chicken, but the original recipe is still the best one. To the kitchen right now. This is where he perfected his 11 herbs and spices. Notice the cups. Now this is the kitchen right here. This is where it all happened. This is where the magic, the 11 herbs and spices happen, right here. All right, this is where you'd pay for your chicken. And there's the cigarette machine right over there. Is the Colonel's original office in his original Sanders Cafe. Note the telephone, no cell phone. Note the Wurlitzer jukebox, file cabinets, and there's the Colonel. Now we're going to step out of his office and look at the cash register. This is the Sanders Cafe. Sanders for senator. This famous white suit.
Yeah, what? All right, now, hey, did I take the cook for you?
It wasn't just the herbs and spices that was sort of unique with him, but He first experimented with the concept of pressure frying, which allowed him to reduce the cooking time from 30 minutes to 9 minutes. The combination of the recipe and the cooking process led to the creation of what he called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders' Kitchen. The Sanders Cafe inside. This is what it actually looked like in the 40s. See the nice light chandeliers? Here's some of the tables and chairs. Kitchen. This is where all of his 11 herbs and spices were developed. I'm going to get a picture from a different angle here in a minute. Towards his office way over there. This is where you'd actually check out in the cafe. Look at that old cigarette machine. I guess I'll keep it down on the cigarettes so you can see them. Pretty basic. Oh yeah, that's sort of me. Alright, now we'll get into his office. Old telephone. There he is, standing right there. There's a Wurlitzer jukebox. Filing cabinet. Remember, this is in the 40s now. This is the Sanders Cafe before it was KFC. Across the street, you can't see it over there because it's gone. But that was the Shell service station, and that's where he started with pumping gas here. There's a good story about him and his gas days. Model motel room. This was actually in the cafe. You'd have the women's bathrooms over there. So we'd have the women walk through this to go to the bathroom, or you'd have the men walk through it to go to the telephone. Either way, they would walk through this room to check it out, because in his mind, the lady of the house would go check out the rooms before they would stay in his little motel. So he just put a model right inside the cafe. Just another one of his innovative ideas on marketing. Marketing, that's where it's at. Let's see if we get a little of this in here. You can see some of this. He ensured that the ladies would inspect his accommodations by locating the entrance to their restroom inside the replicated motel room. He located a pay telephone in the closet of his motel room, which also exposed cafe customers to the quality of his motel. So this was a replica inside of his restaurant. Pretty cool idea. To close out this video and tell you a story, trivia about Colonel Sanders that I alluded to in the video. He almost didn't do all this good stuff, creating the Kentucky Fried Chicken, the franchise, all the things he did. Because originally he owned a gas station there in Corbin, Kentucky. It was a Shell oil station. And that area was a rough area. It's called a Hell's Half Acre between the bootleggers and whatever. This is in the 40s, remember that, way early in our history. But anyway, he had this gas station. Down the road from him was a fella that had another gas station. His name was Stewart. Now, Sanders and Stewart obviously did not get along. You'll hear this in the story. And they were both short-tempered type men. Old Sanders, believe it or not, he was fired from 2 or 3 jobs for getting in fights with fellow workers. So he had a reputation as a rough and tumble guy. So anyway, because Sanders was always a marketing guy, he went and painted a big sign about his gas station on a railroad wall. And Stewart saw that sign, and he painted right over it. Well, Sanders went and told Stewart, "You do that again, I'm going to blow your head off." Well, because Stewart and Sanders basically were made out of the same material, Stewart painted over the sign again. Now, a couple of officials from Shell Oil Station were with Sanders in his gas station, and they heard about it, that Stewart was down there painting over his sign. So they got their guns. Now remember, this is back in the late 30s, early 40s. They got their guns and drove down to that sign area. Stewart saw them coming, put the paintbrush down, grabbed his gun, and shot 3 bullets into one of the guys. Now there's 3 guys with Sanders. Sanders, Shelburne, Gibson. So Stewart is the other gas station owner. Stewart kills Gibson. Well, Sanders grabs dead Gibson's pistol, fires back at Stewart, hits him in the shoulder. And Shelburne fired at Stewart and hit him again. And Stewart hollers out to Sanders, "Quit shooting, you've already killed me. You've killed me." And anyway, the police haul them all to jail, and during the court proceedings, Stewart gets 18 years in prison. Sanders and Shelburne get off scot-free. Now, the rest of this story, he only served 2 years because a deputy sheriff killed him. And rumor has it that the Gibson family paid the Stewart. But anyway, that's some trivia on Sanders. He almost did not have the opportunity to do what he did. All right. I'll see you on my next video. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you.